All right, Shalom Akim, all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh Shemal Shai, double honor to the apostles and the elders, a great millstone, and peace and blessings to the Akim out there pushing his word. All right, so this is an in-transit video, spiritual car talk. You know, I'm moving and grooving right now. So I had something on my mind, I had a scripture on my mind, you know, and I was reflecting back on it and meditating on the scripture. And pretty much when I was younger, you know, because I was in the so-called martial arts of boxing, and I remember, and it's always stuck with me, you know, it's always stuck with me when I was younger. So I had, you know, my father was my coach, and then I had another coach, which was his coach, right? So he was like the master. He was like the master coach, because he coached up my father, and then my father, he coached up me. But I was kind of under the tutelage of both of them. You know, he was kind of more of the overseer. And my dad, you know, when I got a little bit older, he kind of took me away from him because he was my first coach too. He taught me the basics. And then I moved over to my father. He started coaching me on a level. But I remember him saying as I was on the bag, and he said, you know what? You know, he said my name. He said, you know what? He's very talented, and he's very good. And he has God gifted ability, but he trains just good enough to come in second place, which I was winning. You know, I will win. You know, sometimes, you know, I'll lose like a big tournament or something like that at the end, but I will win. You know, I was better than most people, so to speak. You know, but he said, look, you train. He said, yeah, he's good. He has athletic ability, God-given talent, but he trains just good enough to come in second place. And that always stuck with me when I from my youth up, you know, even until now. I meditate on it, and I remember that day. I remember that situation and that day vividly, you know. And I reflected back to the scripture, because Paul talks about in 1 Corinthians, the 9th chapter, about running. Paul equated this truth a lot of the times to sports, because it's the same idea. Because in sports, you're training and you're fighting to achieve a goal, and the goal is first place, right? You don't train and spend your hard-earned time and hard work in the gym and resources and your mind, all right? Because you had to give up a lot of different things in the world so you can go into that sport, so you can be successful, so you can beat all your opponents, okay? But your main opponent is right in front of you. All right, and it's really the other competitors. All right, that's just a reflection of you fighting your own self, so to speak. All right, how can you overcome yourself? Because it's really a fight within the inner man, you know. So I wanted to get this scripture, and then, you know, I want to elaborate on just a little bit of the scripture before I hit my destination. You know, so this is 1 Corinthians 9:24. Know ye not that they which run in a race run all, but one receiveth the prize? So run that ye may attain. Because when you run a race, you're not running the race to come in second and third place or to come in last place. Nobody remembers those titles. They just remember winners, right? It's all about the winner. They don't remember the loser. All right? Even if you come in second place, that's it's like it don't even, like, you did all that hard work for nothing, man. You sacrificed your life for nothing. All that training was come to naught because there was somebody in front of you, your opponent, that you couldn't overcome. You know, and our opponent is the spiritual demon Satan. Okay, we have to fight, and we have to run that ye may obtain, and that obtaining is the redemption that we're going to receive. It's the kingdom. That's the prize that we're trying to achieve, right? And you got a lot of guys that train just good enough to come in second place, and the Most High, he's not dealing with second place. All right, the elect are going to come in first place, so to speak. All right, because they're going to be on fire. Because when a guy, he's on fire when he's training, you can tell the difference, a guy that wants it and a guy that doesn't want it. All right, and that's evident, man. That's very evident, especially in the boxing gym. All right, you can tell a guy that has athletic ability. He's good, so to speak. Comparing to the script, a guy, he may be able to quote a whole bunch of scriptures. He might have the knowledge. He might know the breakdowns, but it's not a guy that pushes himself. And then you have a guy that might not have all that talent and ability, but he wants it, man. He trains 10 times as harder as somebody that has that natural ability. So we have to be like that man that doesn't have a lot and trains to achieve it. All right, the train for to receive that prize, and Jake, a lot of Jakes, they're not running this race or fighting this fight like they want to win this fight. They're just fighting the fight just to stay in the fight, right? They're not fighting the fight to overcome Satan, right? To that inward fight inside of you, that race. They're not running that race like this is not a close race, and we're at the last 100 meters, man. Okay, that last 100 meters, so to speak, or that last straightaway, that stretch. Everybody's going all out, man, and you have to go all out. Like this is your last. This is like this is the only. You train all these years to win this one race. Right, like the Olympics, you might train your whole life just to enter into the Olympics, and it's every 4 years. You might only have one shot, man. You gotta treat this like this is your last and only shot, because this is our last and only shot. Okay, verse 25, and every man that striveth for the masteries, right? You want to master your art, your craft, is temperate in all things, man. So you got to be a well-rounded. Okay, you got to be a well-rounded athlete, so to speak. Now, they do it to obtain a corruptible crown, but we incorruptible. So, yeah, so we're fighting, we're training, we're going all out to receive an incorruptible crown, which is going to be the kingdom of heaven. Okay? We're not fighting, we're not doing these long staking hours of training, long staking hours of fighting, these different matches, different skirmishes, so to speak. All right, and it's for just physical gain, because that's all temporary. Your body is temporary. It's all about the spirit. Okay. We're doing it to receive an incorruptible crown, which that incorruptible crown is the spirit, is the kingdom of heaven. So you got to run and you got to fight like your life depends on it. And they say that in boxing, a guy that's hungry, he's hungry. He's not physically hungry. His spirit inside of him is so hot that he'll literally do whatever it takes to win, man. He'll do whatever it takes in the gym. He'll do whatever it takes in his day-to-day. He'll sacrifice everything for it. Oh, that dude's hungry, man. He's the guy that's the guy you want to get, man. That's the up and coming guy right there. All right. And then you got a guy that's not hungry, man. That's a lazy guy. Right. And this is all, you can all repurpose what I'm saying and pretty much it's like it unto the truth, because that's how the Lord is a man of war. He's all about fighting. The opposition, we have an opposition, the opposition is Satan. Okay? So we do have an adversary. We do have an opponent. Right? And the Lord, he gave us the tools to overcome Satan. But you got to fight and you got to run the race like you're really trying to overcome Satan. Like you want to really go to the kingdom of heaven. Verse 26, I therefore so run, not as uncertainly, right? We're not running uncertainly. You can't have doubt in your mind. You got to be fully persuaded. All right, now this is it. So fight I. So Paul, he said, hey man, I'm fighting, man. He wasn't physically fighting. Okay? Not as one that beat up the air. So even back then, you had the same people that were the same spirits that were in the boxing back in the ancient world, back in the Roman times, the Roman Empire, is the same boxing and fighting spirits that are back now. So you had guys shadow boxing. You had that's part of the training, right? But that beating the air represents that it's all vanity. That right there is not going to do anything. You're not even really fighting an opponent. You look good, right? So Paul's fighting. He's running. Not as one that's physically doing that, but spiritually, right? But I keep under my body and bring it into subjection. Okay? Least by any means, when I have preached to others, I myself be a castaway. And that's part of that fight, is keeping your body under subjection, is mortifying your members. Like the scriptures say, mortify, the subjection, to keep under the rule. All right, to kill. All right? And that pretty much is discipline. Right? That's discipline. You got to have discipline. That's what separates the high level athletes from the low level novices. Is that the high level athletes, the professionals, they have the ultimate layer. They have the ultimate spirit of discipline because they brought their body under subjection. Okay, that's physically, they brought their body under subjection physically to obtain a corruptible crown. But we have to bring our body under subjection. Whatever would stop us from pushing this word, whatever will stop us from receiving our salvation, and we have to put it under subjection. We have to mortify that in order to receive that kingdom of heaven. So that means we have to fight like there's no tomorrow. We have to fight like it's first place, you know. And when I look back on my younger days when I used to fight physically, there really wasn't a time where I was training in my mind, right? In my mind, I'm training for first place. I was like, man, I'm training to win. I'm training to beat this guy. I don't know who I got to fight. I was just training, man. I was just brought up just to train and fight. So now coming in this truth and understanding the wisdom behind all that, right? I know that now that was all vain, me doing all that fighting. But really, it was spiritually to build me up, to understand the concept, right? So certain brothers, they have certain portions of the spirit to understand because they were brought up in a certain aspect of life, so they can bring to you certain situations and filter that to the scriptures, right? So I was brought up in the art of fighting, and then now it's being revealed that really the fight is all in your mind. All right, it's a spiritual fight. Okay, this is not a carnal fight. Even in a physical fight, it's not a physical fight. It's a mental fight. It's a spiritual fight. All right, so you have to fight the fight, okay, and run the race like you're actually trying to obtain the prize. Okay, a lot of guys, they're not fighting like they're trying to obtain. They're just training, like my coach told me. He said, you're just training. You're good enough. You're just training good enough to come in second place. Okay? And we can't be like that, man. We have to train and fight, basically fight the fight, right? Like we want to come in first place, you know? So, you know, I just want to elaborate on that scripture, because when I read that scripture, even my coach, he brought this scripture out, and it's spiritual because he was heavy, which I reflect back on him. He could have been a Jake. I believe he was a Jake, but you know he had a lot of Edomites in his family. He was like a real light skin. My coach, he was real light skinned, you know. But you know, through the spirit, he probably was a Jake. You know, he looked like he was a black man, right? I'm talking about the spirit of him. I'm not talking physically, right? You know, because sometimes, you know, when I reflect back on it, I was like, yeah, he could have been a tear. you know. But it was spiritual because when we used to have our gym had a tournament, man, and it was Boxers for Christ, right? That so when I would fight, I used to have, it was bugged out, but I'll have Jesus on my pants, on the shirt, Boxer for Christ, you know. That was the whole. It was like a spiritual gym. Like you had to be in the scriptures. Like he was into the scriptures, so we used to have Bible studies and all stuff like we used to have Bible studies and stuff like that. And that's all BS, right? That's all BS because we know that that's a false religion. But now, when I reflect back on it, it was spiritual because every time I would fight, those are like that was a guy like, that they were under the banner of Jesus. They were fighting for, and they'll pray before the fight. It was all booked out, but now, it's spiritual. And he used to have the scripture. We used to have that scripture on a shirt and a couple of different scriptures on the back of our shirt, pretty much going into fighting, So I'm gonna cut the video, and just pretty much, you gotta fight and run, which is pretty much the same thing. It's pretty much being in this truth and overcoming Satan and the things that he's trying to do to stop you from pretty much going, truly relying on Yahweh Shemashai, truly digging deep into this truth. There's a lot of things that we do that we can cut out, but it's that's the fight there. It's not an overnight process. That's why you grow in this thing. And you got a desire to grow. And the only way to desire to grow is the fight. That's how you overcome. And you get built up. Because you want to win. You want to win this race, man. You're hungry. You're hungry, man. If you understand that term, like, man, somebody that's hungry, they gonna eat, man. They gonna go out and eat. They not gonna be sitting back. I'm hungry. Nah, when your ass is hungry, you get up and you go get some food, man. So that's how you have to be for this truth. You got to be hungry. Okay, because hunger, that your life depends on hunger. Okay, your life actually depends on hunger. If you starve, your spirit's gonna leave you. Your spirit's gonna go back to the spiritual world. So the spirit's really telling you, hey, in the body, hey, look, I can't sustain without you putting food in me, man. So the spirit's telling you, man, I'm hungry. And then you physically have to feed the body so the spirit can stay in the body. So it's the same thing with the truth, man. You gotta be hungry for it. Right? You gotta be hungry for the truth. Like it's like I gotta eat, man. If I don't eat, I'm gonna die. And that's how you fight. You fight like you're so hungry that you're gonna win this race. So with that, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh Shema Shai, double honors to the apostles and the elders, and peace and blessings to the Akim out there pushing this word in truth and sincerity. I want to say shalom.